guru to show me the way. Send me a guru every day. Get me back on track when I go astray. Enlighten me with your wisdom today. It might get weird, but that's alright. We're all just gurus helping each other through the night. Right here on Everyday Gurus. Everyday Gurus. Wake up, don't hit the snooze. You might miss Everyday Gurus. Everyday Gurus. Everyday Gurus.
Welcome everybody, this is episode 6 of Everyday Gurus. I'm your host Patrick Ecstatic, so good to be back. And today I have an awesome guest with us. He's got an amazing voice, like he was born to do radio and podcasting. So I'm so happy to have him on today. His name is Kevin Tierney, a former Navy veteran. So welcome Kevin, thanks for coming on the show today.
No, thank you for having me. It's nice to be here today. I appreciate it. And thanks for the compliment about my voice.
Yeah, it's excellent. So I would just love for you to take a minute to just introduce yourself, say hello to everybody, and anything you'd want the audience to know about you.
Sure. My name is Kevin, and I was in the United States Navy from 1986 to 2008. I got to sail around the world and see a lot of things and do a lot of things. I was a photographer, and then I was able to go to school and become a photojournalist and a combat photographer and things like that. So yeah, it was interesting.
That's awesome. So photography then was one of your main gigs in the Navy?
Yeah, it was. Photography, ironically enough, kind of saved me in high school. It kept me in school. So I enjoyed photography a lot. And once I found out in the Navy you could become a photographer, I asked if I could become a photographer, and they said yes. So it took me a couple of years to do it. It wasn't an easy, right away thing, but I was able to get it taken care of. So and become a photographer. So yeah, it was an amazing, opportunity. So yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for your service to our country, first of all.
No, I loved it. Thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. It means a lot. And that's so cool that you were able to serve and do something that is a creative passion of yours too. I'm sure a lot of people don't even realize that's an option in the services.
Yeah, no, they don't. There's a lot of different jobs in the Navy that people don't realize that we have. There's really only two jobs we don't have. One of them is veterinarian, and off the top of my head, I can't remember the other one. But other than that, we have job opportunities, in every field that you can imagine. So,
awesome.
But yeah, photography was, like I said, saved me in high school, and then I found out in the Navy I could do it. And
yeah, that's what we have really preached on this podcast quite a bit is following creative passion and how essential it is in anybody's life to keep everything else in balance. I've shared openly about my challenges with extreme depression for many years, and that time, those few years, was when I was most disconnected from my creative side, because I'm a musician and a very creative person, and when we disconnect from that creative passion, everything else kind of falls out of balance too. So that's a huge theme of our podcast, is for everyone to stay connected to that universal creativity that we're all part of, because if we disconnect from that, we will feel a vast emptiness inside, and it's really one of the keys to being human, is to stay creative.
Right, correct. I didn't realize you were a musician. Do you play instruments, or do you sing, or?
Yeah, both. I play the guitar and sing and write songs.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's an amazing thing. That's an amazing talent.
Thank you.
My son is quite a musician as well, and he he plays guitar and piano and sings. And so I'm always envious of people that have that type of talent.
It's definitely a great way to connect with creativity, and
Yeah,
it's a very cathartic way to release some emotions. And songwriting is definitely the biggest passion of mine, is seeing it all come together with the music and the words, and really having a message to share through music is a great gift.
right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So you mentioned your son. How many total children do you have?
I have two children. I've been married twice in my life. My first marriage, I have a daughter from that marriage, and she is 36. And then I have a 17-year-old from my current spouse. So I spaced him out a little bit. So,
Nice.
but yeah, he's the joy of my life. He's awesome. His name is Kevin also. And but yeah, he's a great kid, and so, but yeah,
Excellent. So do you call him Kevin Jr. or Kev, or how do you distinguish?
KJ for Kevin Jr. because he gets
KJ.
confusing quickly.
Yeah. Nice.
But yeah,
So, did either of your kids follow your footsteps and join the military?
no, neither.
No.
I always told my children to do what they want to do themselves. I never influenced or tried to influence them in any way, shape, or form. Whatever the path, my daughter's doing very well in Florida, and so my son's following his. He marches to his own drummer. He's a free spirit, and I understand that, and you have to deal with that differently. He's different, and so it's not your traditional child rearing, but I wouldn't have it any other way. He's awesome.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. So
Yeah,
tell me a little bit about your current wife and how you met.
oh, that's an interesting story. She's from Phoenix, but we met in Micronesia. So we met in Guam,
Hmm.
and she had a radio show. She was a DJ out there. She had a radio show and at a Christian broadcasting station. And I was in the Navy, and we met. I was doing volunteer work on base, and she was a trainer, and we met and fell in love. And 29 years later, here we are.
Did she invite you on her radio show for your voice? That must have gotten her attention for sure.
Nope, I was never on her. Yeah, actually, I was on her show one time. Now that you mention it, I was on her show one time by accident. But I called into the radio show, and they took me. They thought I was answering a question that they had called about, and I was asking what was for dinner, and I because the show was supposed to be over, and so they put me through, and I asked her what dinner was, that night, and I went out through the air. So, but yeah,
That's
mean,
classic.
so,
Uh,
but yeah,
what was for dinner that night?
I forget, and I think meatloaf or something like that.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
So
So we laugh about that to this day. Yeah, she has an amazing radio voice. So she's done broadcasting for years.
oh yeah, is she still active in that?
No, she's working with children with severe autism.
Hmm.
So she takes care of children with severely autistic children. So she works with a family. And so she's very passionate about that. And it's a necessity in our community. I mean, children with autism. It's something that's fairly new as far as shining light on it. I think it's been around, but autism awareness is something that's relatively new. So she's pretty passionate about it, and that's what she does. So yeah, works out good.
Cool. Yeah, I'm curious about that because I'm an educator. I'm a fifth grade teacher, and I have some exposure to autistic kids that are, in my classroom in
Yeah,
in the mainstream with other kids, and it's such a broad spectrum. I feel like the diagnosis is thrown around so almost haphazardly, like, oh, this
I
kid's
agree.
autistic, but it's such a broad spectrum. Like, it can mean so many different things. So, when you say severe autism, what does that entail?
Well, they're uncontrollable, I
Mm.
guess, is one word I would use. I have been around. She works specifically right now for one family. She works for other families, but she's working for particular one family, and the kids get out of control. They have to,
Mm.
they have to eat at a certain time. They have to have, light deprivation and things like that. So it's just a thing, and you have to know what you're looking for. I mean, when
Mhm.
they start getting that way, you have to start working. It's a job. I mean, it really is a full time job to watch them. So, but yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I remember when I was a substitute teacher, I subbed for some special ed children, and most of them were diagnosed as autistic, and there was even just within that class, there was a whole broad spectrum. Like one kid was more mellow and like was seemingly almost fully coherent, but just like there was something missing, like was disconnected. But then there was another kid on the other side of the spectrum who was like really hitting himself really hard, just spontaneously
right.
and screaming. So it's like the whole spectrum was like right in front of my face within that one class. And it's like,
You
this
do
is,
get that. Yeah, you get the varied responses like that.
yeah.
The hitting. Some of them need helmets. I mean,
Mm.
it depends. So it's funny. You're an educator. It's interesting. My mother taught. She was a special ed teacher for 35 years. So that's great. It's good calling. I thank you for that.
Yeah, of
So,
course. Yeah, serving the community in my own way too. Trying to teach those kids how to be good
the
citizens, and I get a chance to teach them mindfulness too, which is my biggest passion is mindfulness and meditation and yoga and the spiritual path. Really, of course,
right,
I'm in a public school, so I don't really teach spirituality, but I do teach mindfulness, which is more of like a politically correct way to approach
sure,
it, but. I feel like it's an essential life skill these days with so many distractions and such a high paced world just to be able to slow down and pause and breathe. Certainly nobody ever taught that to me when I was growing up, so I do it every day with the kids, just quick meditations and before we even do
sure.
anything academically. That's the most important thing I can teach them than anything from the textbooks is how to breathe, how to slow down, and how to self-regulate, emotionally because they can lose control pretty quickly, and even at that age, 10 and 11, they're very much their attention spans can be very low, and they're very much concerned. They're very self-conscious and concerned about what others think of them, and
Think about themselves. Yeah,
yep,
yeah. No, you're absolutely right. So
so
it's good that you're doing that, and I like it. I see you have Buddha on the back of your wall there. I took in a foreign exchange student from Vietnam for a year, and he taught me a lot about Buddha and his teachings and things like that. Tan is his name. He's now a student at ASU. He did very well here. He graduated top of his class, high school, and then so I took him. My wife and I took him in for a year, so he had a place to live while he was finishing up school here in America. And then now he's at ASU, so doing very well there. He's at Barrett's Honors, so
great.
in
So
business.
did he teach you anything about meditation, or have you ever explored that yourself?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit, yeah. We talked quite a bit. We had quite a few conversations about Buddha and his teachings. And my father-in-law also is East Indian, So he's from India. So, we've talked ad nauseum about Buddha and his teachings. And yeah, it's very interesting, actually, I think, Buddha and his travels and teachings and things like that. So, yeah,
For sure. He's one of my greatest inspirations, the historical
yeah,
Buddha. And
yeah,
of course, just Buddha consciousness in general. That one of the Buddha's greatest teachings was that we all are Buddha. Buddha's within us all, that potential to awaken, to our interconnectedness and our oneness, and to be enlightened. To live free from suffering and free from the attachments of the worldly pleasures and desires, and clinging to our physical form and things like that. So I read one of the greatest summaries of his teachings regularly. It's called what is it called? Um,
I'd like to read it.
Yeah, it's called Undaunted. Undaunted is the name of the book. It's
Okay.
it's a phenomenal summary of the teachings of the Buddha. So yeah, I'd be happy to share that with you. But it's
Yeah, I'd
been
like,
one of the most powerful books that I've ever read.
yeah, I'd like to read it, actually. I'm into a lot of different things, so I'm not closed-minded. I'm pretty open-minded. So being around the world, I've seen, done, tasted, whatever, a lot of different stuff. So I'm pretty open-minded. So
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate that about you. So when you were in the Navy, how many different countries did you end up traveling to?
couldn't tell you. A lot of people ask me that question. I've never sat down to figure it out. I've been everywhere, you know. Uh, so yeah, it's been I had an amazing career. I mean, I've been to some of the countries I've been to real quick is Brunei. I spent all my time to keep it simple. I spent all my time in Asia. So from China to, Korea to all those areas, and some of the smaller countries that you don't even hear, Brunei and, Bali and places like that. So, but yeah, that's where I spent all my time. And I was I'm a curious person. I probably should have been an anthropologist, really. Um, because wherever I went, I always learned local customs. I tried to learn some of the language. So when I lived in the Philippines, I was able to learn the language there, and get to know the culture and everything like that. So yeah, I always tried to experience the culture of the host country that I'm in. I think it's rude if you don't, and too often Americans are closed-minded to, they want to go to McDonald's or stuff like that, and I always went to not McDonald's. I went to local restaurants and did local things. So, and that's what I liked about being in the Navy, because in a way you are an anthropologist. You're sailing around the world and meeting new people, and it was a lot of responsibility at times. Really, you're an ambassador of the United States in these foreign countries, and so yeah, that's a little bit about the area that I was in.
So
Of area.
being a photographer, did that really help you notice like cool perspectives when you were in these new countries, and like really be able to seek out different views and scenery and things like that?
Absolutely, because the United States Navy would do something called ComRel projects, community relations projects, when we pull into port, and we would paint orphanages or take food to orphanages and things like that. And I would take photography of that, and do stories on it and things like that. So yeah, no, it was good stuff.
When you
So
say stories, do you mean like you would publish like articles or videos or?
yeah, little articles,
Mhm.
maybe for the ship's paper or the
Mhm.
base paper or something like that, saying, that we were in this community, doing this or that. So yeah, it was fun. I didn't really have a job in the Navy. I had a hobby, really. It was more of a, you know, other than my other than my time in Iraq, I did 6 years as a combat correspondent, and but overall, yeah, it was a great career.
Were you ever in any sort
So
of danger or in the line of
yeah,
fire in your work?
yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I was in on Zaria, Iraq, which is where the Tigris and Euphrates meet. And according to the Bible, that's where the Garden of Eden was. And that's where I was located at. It's south central Iraq. And it is one of the most desolate areas I've ever been to in my life. It was absolutely miserable. And but yeah, I did face some danger. I mean, it's in a combat zone, so you never know what can happen. You have snipers and roadside bombs, and but thankfully, and nothing happened to me, and I got home. So I covered the war over there, and I was also on the Comfort, which is a hospital ship that the Navy has. It's a huge hospital ship with thousands of beds on it that can take wounded troops. And also, I documented the first wounded in the war coming on board that ship. So, but yeah, that was my ties to the Iraq War.
I'm certainly glad you came through unscathed, unwounded. Did you have any friends in the military that weren't as lucky as you? That did you lose anybody close to you?
I did not. Everyone in my unit came home. We all left and we all came back. So we all were either in Iraq or Afghanistan or both. I didn't get to make it to Afghanistan. Unfortunately, I wanted to go to Afghanistan because Alexander the Great was there. I wanted to see what it was like, but I didn't get to go. So half of our crew went to Afghanistan, half went to Iraq, and you don't get to choose. You go where you're told.
Hmm.
And so I went to Iraq, and the rest of the crew went to Afghanistan. So,
That's
but
great.
yeah,
That's great that you didn't lose anybody. So
yeah,
did
we
you
had
have a
good
lot of
leadership.
friends in your group, and are you still in touch with any of them?
I am, yeah, I
Okay.
am. Yeah, you when you have those kind of commitments and those types of responsibilities, you remain friends for life.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a lot of responsibility to put people into combat, and it's a lot of responsibility to come home. So, yeah, yeah, you remain friendly with those people. I still am. So, yeah.
Great. Do you have any funny stories from your time together when you go like mess around or like get in any trouble or anything during your travels?
Mhm. A lot. Yeah. I used to drink quite a bit when I was in the Navy, and I don't anymore. But so yeah, we would have fun in various ports doing various things. But yeah, yeah, we would get into mischief here and there, and sometimes not in foreign ports, sometimes here in America. So I remember one night, my friend and I were running around Coronado Island, after we had come home from Iraq and Afghanistan, pretending to be securing buildings and making sure that they were okay. And so yeah, stuff like that, but nothing too outlandish.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. What
Yeah,
happens in the Navy stays in the Navy after hours. That's fair.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I'm curious when you were first joining, like how did you imagine military life being, and like how have your perceptions changed from the actual experience?
Yeah, sure. I joined in 1985, New
Mhm.
Year's Eve, actually, 1985, and I wasn't really sure what I was getting into. I signed a contract for 4 years with no guarantee of a job. Just you come into the Navy and you do the absolute basic work that they want you to do, like chipping paint, swabbing decks, doing the absolute worst jobs imaginable.
Mhm.
So I was like, well, I wanted to do something, and I was fairly patriotic, and I wasn't doing anything in my hometown. So that's why I was like, well, I got to do something. So I went down to the Navy, and join the Navy. I didn't think it was going to be. I wasn't sure what I got myself into, really. Um, and once I got in there, I was like, wow, this is different from what I thought it would be. But as I moved up through the ranks, it gets easier. And it did. It did get easier, and it got better. But it's like any job. It sucks some days, and other days it's fine. The military, a lot of people have a misconception about it, that it's just like any other job, really. The only thing is you can't use drugs in the military. Other than that, your job is like any other job. So, but yeah,
Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I like your yellow background on the wall. Are you able
Oh,
to keep that in
yeah,
the shot? That's a nice looking background.
sure. I'll move a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of too comfy in my chair here.
Yeah. So I remember I was doing Uber and picked you up. So you're still working, correct?
I am. I still work for the United States Navy. I
Hmm.
can't get away from them. I love them.
Hmm.
So I work now. I'm an administrator downtown, and I do a lot of, well, administrative things.
Yeah.
It's not very exciting, but I still get to do, because I was in the Navy for so long. Um, I still understand the language and everything, so it's easy for them. I just plug and play the paperwork, and I know what to do. And so, yeah, I enjoy it immensely. My job, I would almost work for free if I was, you still got to pay bills, but I would almost work for free. So I like it that much. So,
Love to
but
hear
yeah,
that. Love to hear that passion for what you do.
yeah,
That's kind of how I feel about my job is it's so rewarding in so many ways and there's so many moments of connection and purpose and humor and everything that it really doesn't even feel like a job sometimes, it's that much fun. As hard as it is, just because something hard is hard doesn't mean it's not worth doing. In fact, some of the
right,
most joyful and rewarding things I've ever done have been the hardest things. Whether it's learning an instrument or teaching or
right,
some of the spiritual stuff that I've done has just been excruciating, but it's so worth it in the end. With the freedom and the healing and the purpose that has come through my journey is it's made it all worthwhile.
right. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's amazing the growth that we go through in life. I
Hmm.
mean, the different stages that we go through in life, whether it's spiritual or physical, or yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's a journey.
Oh yeah,
It's a journey, not a destination.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. So
That's why it's so important to have people to share it with, and that's kind of why I designed this podcast is to bring more people to light with cool stories and wisdom to offer, such as yourself. And that's the whole purpose of the podcast. Everyday Gurus is everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody has unique wisdom that can be shared, and this is just like an outlet for not just myself and just for anybody who I feel has something to offer. And it's very much a spiritually driven podcast because that's what drives me in my life. And when I met you, it was so synchronistic because it was on the same day that my grandfather, Tom Emma, had died almost 20 years ago. But he served in the Navy for
wow.
a couple decades as well. So when I was talking to you, I kind of had like that spiritual feeling, like there's some sort of synchronicity here, and that's why I asked you to be on the show because I felt like it was just like divinely guided, and of course your voice too. It's hard to beat that voice for a podcast. It's like it's prime radio voice.
Well, I definitely have a face for radio, that's for sure. That's what I always tell everyone. I laugh about it, so it's all good.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So, yeah, no, I think what you're doing is amazing. I think everybody does have a story to tell.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't care who you are or who it is. Everybody has a story to tell. And being a photojournalist, I tried to tell those stories. You know, I got to see the best and the worst of everything, and I got to tell it all. You know, and put it down on paper, and yeah. So, but it's out there. My work is out there. If anyone chooses to ever take a peek, but
How
I'm
can we
everywhere.
find it?
Just Google my name, and
Hmm.
all my photography is there. So, yeah, or my works, or I had a I have, it's funny you mentioned about gurus and things like that. I have a flag that was given to me when it means a lot to me. It was given to me by a Sherpa, a Nepalese Sherpa that climbed Mount Everest with this flag for me to have in my shadow box. He took it to the top of Mount Everest.
Wow.
And so did his, the person that was climbing it and funded the tour. Usually it costs between $5,000 to $10,000 to have a flag taken to the summit.
No kidding.
And they did it for me for nothing. I wrote a story about it, and it can be found on Everest News
Oh, cool.
magazine. But yeah, I did it in remembrance of people that lost their lives, 911 and all that. So they took it to the summit for me, and then now it's in my home in a prominent location. But yeah, no. So talking about Nepal and Buddha, and some of the other things made me think of the Nepalese Sherpa that took that flag to Everest for me. So I mean, took two flags actually. Don't Tread on Me flag, the Gadsden flag, and then the American flag, the Betsy Ross flag.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
So,
great. There's another synchronicity because I just taught my kids about Betsy Ross literally yesterday. We were talking about her, so that's
oh,
great.
really? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I had the Betsy Ross taken to the top, and then the Gadsden flag. So
Wow, I'm sure those have brought many blessings to your home.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a conversation piece, that's for sure.
Hmm.
So I'd like to get to Nepal. I really would. I don't think, I mean, I have an artificial hip and an artificial knee because of the Navy, but I don't think I'll ever climb Everest. But um, I've done plenty of other stuff. But uh, I would like to see it at least sometime in my life. I'd like to see the Taj Mahal. I haven't been to India,
Mm.
ironically enough. And so,
So your
so I
wife
started.
is of Indian descent, or is she Indian?
Yeah, she's Indian. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
awesome.
She's half. So her mother's British and her mom's English, and her dad was from Madras. So he's very dark because southern India, of course, as you know, I don't know where you were in India, but South India is very dark. And then as you
Uh-huh.
get towards China, they get light and tall.
Mm. Yeah,
And,
I was in Chennai, that area, so southeast
tonight, yeah,
India. Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, yeah.
And
I haven't been yet, but I want to go. So I'm still young enough to go.
yeah, I loved it. It changed my life, as I'm sure I told you a little bit about it on our Uber drive. And yeah, ever since then, I've grown a whole new appreciation for the Indian culture, and am attracted to Indian women more so than I ever was before, which is kind of a fun fact about that. But I don't know what
Yeah,
it is. I mean, that
sure.
trip really changed a lot about my perspective on a lot of things, both internally and externally. So that's what inspired me to become a teacher and totally change careers. And ever since then, I've been much more inspired creatively and writing all whole new types of music and singing sacred mantras and different forms of chanting called kirtan, and I've fallen in love with that. devotional music and sacred music, and really started to have fun with that. So it's really changed my life.
I I listen to chanting as well. Ironically, we're talking about this because people don't, I at work, people are like, what are you talking about? So, but I listen to the Benedictine monks. They have
Mm.
some chanting, music out there or whatever. I just find it very soothing at night. I stay up a lot. I have PTSD pretty bad. I have
Mm.
post-traumatic stress disorder pretty bad. And so I'm up at odd hours. No one could ever rob me because I'm up at all kinds of weird hours. I'm up at 2, I'm up at 4, I'm up at 1. No one can figure out they're going to try to snipe me. They couldn't figure it out. But no, I listened to that the Benedictine monks, and it's very soothing. It keeps me calm. And so I like it. So I got to listen to some of the Indian stuff. What do you call it?
Kirtan.
Kirtan.
Yeah, so a lot of it's based in call and response, where, for example, Om Namah Shivaya, which is gratitude
Okay.
and salutations to Lord Shiva, which is one of the most prominent, strongest, powerful gods in Hindu
In Hindu,
mythology.
yeah.
Yeah, Om Namah Shivaya, and then like ideally you'd be in a group, and then they would chant back Om Namah Shivaya, and it just like builds and builds and goes on for like 7 to 10 minutes at a time, the same chant over and over. And
Okay.
then you can add English words to it too, to kind of like interpret the meaning and make it a song. And that's what I do. I kind of do a blend of the mantra as well as like the meaning behind it, and kind of have created like a blend of rock music and kirtan together. And I'll be
Oh,
releasing
I'd
an
like to
album
hear
for
that.
the yeah, I'm going to release an album before the end of the year, so I'm really excited about it. It's been really coming
Okay.
together.
I got to hear that because I'm really into music, bro, and I'm into a lot of different stuff. So, there's nothing that I won't listen to. So I'm interested to hear. And my son, man, he's really in this music. So
Awesome.
we listen to some wild stuff.
Cool. I will be sure to send it your way as soon as it's done, which it's only a couple months from completion, so it's gained a lot of momentum the past month or two.
Good.
Yeah.
Good deal. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
Glad
thank
to hear
you.
that. So, what other countries have you been to? Where have you been? Like quite a few places.
Well, international travel is actually brand new to me. I had not left the U.S. Or Mexico. I had been to Mexico a couple times, but I hadn't left North America my whole life until I hit 30. See, when did I go to India? At 35. So I went to India 2 years ago, and then this past summer, just a couple months ago, I went to Sweden, and
Okay.
that was another spiritual journey with the same spiritual community called Akam, or Oneness, and we call it Oneness now. Akam is more of the temple that they have in India, but the community is called Oneness, and they have a satellite location now in Horby, Sweden, called the Oneness Nordic Center. And it used to be a Buddhist monastery, so it's like it's got, I think there's like over 800 statues of the Buddha of varying sizes, like throughout the property. And it was one of the most beautiful sacred places I've ever been to, and I stayed there
Oh, that
for,
sounds cool. Yeah.
yeah, it was super cool. It was probably the best week of my life. And it was in like the farmland of Sweden, the southwest part of Sweden near Denmark, and just like really open country land and pastures and things like that. And the place was one of the most sacred, beautiful places I've ever been to. And that community has really had a great impact on my life. I've met so many friends and just unique, cool people, and my gurus from that community are super smart and powerful and kind and compassionate. And yeah, they've really made me a much stronger, healthier person, and I'm so grateful for that.
You know, that's awesome that you had that experience. Those are the types of experiences that I've had in different places too. San Fernando, Philippines. They they actually, during Stations of the Cross, they nail people to wooden crosses and hang them up. I mean, they go through the wrist and everything, bro.
Wow.
And yeah, they're severely Catholic there. You know, they're 99.9% Catholic, and then the rest is Christian, various Christian, and some Muslims in the southern part of the Philippines. But in San Fernando, you can watch it. You can just go online and see it. It's kind of gross, but they nail themselves to the cross and they put them up, and then they also do self-flagellation. I've personally seen that. I haven't seen them nailed to the cross, but I've seen self-flagellation to the point where blood was going everywhere. I had to be careful. I photographed it. I documented it. But yeah, it's interesting. Some of these various cultures have various, traditions and things.
Yeah, wow, that's a super extreme.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, wow, they're really nailing that person to the cross, so
Yeah, I think people tend to focus a little bit too much on that when it comes to Jesus. Thinking of Jesus as a sacrificial lamb, oh,
right,
he died for our sins, which I understand that aspect of it. But, I like to think of Jesus more as similar to the Buddha, similar. He was an enlightened being who came to spread a message, that
right.
we are all one with God. We are all interconnected. And I
Yep,
think he got misinterpreted and idolized, and he was the one son of God, but really his message was, well, we're all the children of God. That's kind of how I interpret his purpose in the world. But people
yeah,
tend to focus on the cross aspect of it and how he got nailed to the cross. Well, that was just one small part of his life, and his death doesn't really tell the full story of why he was here and what he was all about.
right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I spent a lot of time in the Middle East, and Muhammad. I have a book. I have the Quran. I have a good copy of the Quran. It was good. I've been to some of the nicest mosques in the world. I've been to the Grand Mosque in Bahrain, which is the most gorgeous edifice you've ever seen. And I've been to the Grand Mosque in Bahrain and Kuwait City, and a few of them, and they're beautiful. And I've read the Quran, because I wanted to know what it says. Just like a lot of other. I've read the Book of Mormon cover to cover. I mean, so I'm interested in a lot of different things. So I don't keep my mind closed. I couldn't. I'm a photojournalist. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had to, you know, keep an open mind and an open perspective and see different things and do different things. So,
Are you still doing any photography for a hobby or anything?
no, my camera kit was, when I left the Navy, my camera kit was $20,000.
Oh my gosh.
So I had to obviously, I had to turn all my gear in when I left. So I just don't have that kind of money. And really, to be honest with you, I've shot everything there is to shoot.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't desire. It's like a plumber that's done it for 22 years. Probably at the end of the day, he doesn't want to come home and clean his own toilet. So no, and I could do photography. I could probably go to either the Phoenix Police Department or anything like that and be probably the manager of their photography, but no, no desire. I'm happy doing what I do. I help sailors all day long, and it's fun. I don't make a lot of money, but it's fun. It's what I was supposed to do. It's what I'm supposed to do. So I do what I do. My dad told me work at a job where you love it and you never have to work a day in your life. And that's the truth.
For sure.
If you're happy and focused and centered and all that stuff, everything else falls into place. And so it all works out.
I feel that and I appreciate that. And yeah, that's starting to become my truth too. The more I focus on those things that you mentioned, staying centered, creating from joy, and everything kind of has fallen into place for me, kind of starting for that trip in India where I took that pause and said, this isn't working. I need to take a break, and then really got my trajectory set in the right direction and more in alignment with my purpose of helping others, serving others, and it's a great privilege to have a positive impact on some of the young people of our world who are going to inherit
Yeah.
this earth, and the fate of our planet will be in their hands. So I'm impacting them as much as I can with my states of enlightened consciousness, and the experience that I've had of our interconnectedness and oneness with each other and the earth. And um, it's going to work. It's going to work. We're going to have a brighter future, and this earth is not only going to survive, but we're going to thrive on it. And
Hey,
that's what I believe.
that's what we need, is that positivity.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah, there's certainly enough pessimism out there that, oh, we're all doomed, and
Yeah.
the world's gone to hell and all this. But if you really look at the overview of the past, well, the whole history of humanity, I mean, things have actually gotten better. There's less violence. Overall there's less um, um, like torture and things like that, and people have become
Right.
more humane. So I once read a book called "The Better Angels of Our Nature" that was all about that. Like no, it's not getting worse. It's actually gotten better over time. So if you really like zoom out. But of course, it's easy to focus on the negative, and the media like spins things towards the negative. So
Yeah.
we have that
Absolutely. Doom and gloom.
misconception.
Yeah. Doom and gloom, because that sells.
Exactly. But I've seen the bright side. I've seen the light coming. And I'm at the forefront of it with this spiritual community called Oneness. And it's not the only organization out there that's starting to shift more towards the light. Because we do need to heal as a species. Because if we don't, it's going to be the end, of our species.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I tend to be an optimist and think that we are not only just going to survive, but we are going to thrive and be a co-creator with this planet, with each other, and with the divine.
Cool. I hope so. Yeah. I hope so. I've seen a lot of bad, but I've seen a lot of good too. So
Yin and yang. That's what it's about.
yeah,
Just finding that
that's right.
balance.
Finding that balance. That's right.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. It's really been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, and I appreciate it. And if you ever want to do it again, let me know. And I got the technical difficulties worked out, and I appreciate it.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, would love to have you on again sometime. And I just thank you so much. All the best to you and your family.
okay. Thank you so much, Patrick. You have a good day.
You too, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everyday gurus. When the path gets narrow and life seems tough, remind me I'm already enough. Even the boulders are part of my path, and help is available if I just ask. I need a guru to show me the way. Send me a guru every day. It might get weird, but that's alright. We're all just gurus helping each other through this life.